Oh, hey, welcome to another edition of Socrates Explains Everything. My name is Socrates. I like to explain things. We're here in the middle of April on a unfortunate day because it's now the day we crossed 3 million coronavirus cases in the world. And also 1 million of those cases are in the United States. It's not a good day, but it's a day, so I thought we should talk about it. Just to recap, it was on April 3rd that the first million cases around the world was detected. And it was growing, took 4 months to get that first million from the first case. And at that point, it was growing at 10% a day, the growth rate, because there was 100,000 new cases that day when there was a million. And now on the April 15th, we crossed 2 million cases. And that only took 12 days. It took 4 months for the first million cases, 120 days or so. And 12 days for the second million. Now the third million took 13 days. And that's kind of good because it shows that we've broken the clean exponential growth of this virus. Because this thing grows at 10 or more percent a day as the number of cases from the previous day. And that's an escalating exponential, a vicious curve. Now we grew at 70,000 cases a day on the 15th when we crossed 2 million. And we're growing now at 75,000 a day at 3 million. So we were growing originally at 10% a day at a million, and then it was down to 3% a day when we crossed 2 million, and now it's down to about 2% a day here at 3 million. So we're on the right path, but we've got a lot farther to go. The social distancing and generally avoiding huge crowds and gatherings like stand-up comedy shows, which is unfortunate as a stand-up comedian, but we all have this burden to bear. Comedy. Ha! Don't ask me. But now with the U.S., we're going to look at a couple different countries. We looked at most of these countries back at 2 million. You can see the video down in the description to the link to the previous one, where you can also like and subscribe, because, I don't know. Anyway, so now with 1 million cases in the United States, they had 25,000 new cases just today, basically, which is about a 2.5% growth rate. And that's bad, but it's down from about 5% when we crossed the 2 million line. So they're holding it pretty much steady, which also in some ways decreases it over time, but we're really best if we can get it to going down. And many countries are getting their numbers to go down. Spain, for example, and these are basically in descending order of total cases. Spain has 232,000 cases in total, and they just had 2,500 new cases. And their numbers are way down, and they're down to about a 1% growth. They were about 1.5% last time. Italy is down to about 201,000 total cases, and only 2,000 new cases this last day, which was down to actually about 0.1%. They were at 2%, but at 0.1%, they've almost gotten rid of the virus. Of course, 2,000 new cases is still a lot. Woo. But as a percentage-wise, they've actually pretty much gotten rid of the virus. Now, of course, compare that to the UK, which actually jumped up a place. And they got 162,000 cases and 4,000 new ones, which is a 2.5% growth. And again, they're still fairly flat with their curve of daily cases, but it's still down from 5%, so it's still an improvement. Germany, with 159,000 total cases, only had 1,000 new cases, which is a 0.5% growth, which is half of they were 1% before. So they were good before, and they're getting even better. And once you're under that 1%, it's just a matter of stamping out the embers. You know, Turkey doubled their total cases up to 114,000 cases and 2,000 new cases just now, which is a 2% growth. Still bad, but much better than the 6% they had. So they finally dented their curve, and they're bringing their numbers down, which is really good. Now Russia, they had a 4 times increase in total cases, up to 100,000 cases with 6,000 new cases. And their curve is still growing dangerously fast, but they've at least slowed it slightly. That's at 6% growth. Now it was double that. It was at 12% when we crossed 2 million cases. So Russia's started to take action, and those actions are clearly starting to take effect. And that's basically what you're looking at when you're looking at the statistical numbers here. Iran, which had one of the earliest bad out-of-control outbreaks and a total of 92,000 cases, they only have 1,000 new cases and are growing at 1%, half of the 2% just a few months ago, a few weeks ago. And they've done an incredible job of stamping down what was truly an out-of-control outbreak. You know, Brazil is still out of control. They have 3 times the number of total cases, with 73,000 total cases and 6,000 new cases. And that's growing still at 8%, which is actually slightly higher than the 7% they were growing at before, and one of the few countries that I noticed with an escalating growth rate, unfortunately. Canada, with 51,000 and 1,500 new cases just now, they're down to a 3% growth rate, which is an improvement over the 5%. But the Canadian system, it just seems to be slowly improving. In fact, well, I think the numbers went up, actually, looking at this. Here in the Netherlands, fortunately, with only 38,000 total cases, we only had 200 new cases reported this last day, which is only a 0.5% growth, 0.5%, much better than the 3% we were growing at 2 weeks ago. So that's a really good thing, especially if you happen to live in the Netherlands. In India, it's still growing quite mad. In India, they've tripled their number, up to 31,000 total cases and 2,000 new cases, and they grew at 6% just now. But they were growing at 9%, so at least they're in the right direction, and that's the important thing. Peru, which was a real frightening looking one, they also tripled their total cases to 31,000 and grew at 2,000 new cases, which is 6% growth. But when you consider last time they were growing closer to 20%, they're definitely in the right direction, and hopefully in a couple of weeks they can get those numbers significantly lower. And one of the interesting cases is Sweden, which has done a strange version of lockdown with 19,000 total cases and only 500 new cases. But that's still a 3% growth for the total caseload, which is down from the 4% a few weeks ago. But it's still, their lack of lockdown, I think, is telling and extending this thing a bit longer than it needed to be done. Now you look at the 2 really successful cases, would be South Korea, which had the same starting point as America. The U.S. and South Korea had the first case on the same day, and they ended up with 10,000 total cases and a brutal early spike. But with lots of testing, they broke that number quickly, and a mere 14 new cases, which is just 0.2% growth compared to their total cases, which is still double that of Italy. So if South Korea is a win, then I think we can certainly say Italy is on the edge of being a win as well. The other one is New Zealand, which is being touted as being coronavirus free. You know, I guess they only have a total of just under 1,500 cases, 1,474. It's good when the number's so low that you can do exact counting on it. And they just had 3 new cases. But that's still a 0.2% growth from the previous number, or percent of the previous number. So it's not zero, that's for sure. And in some ways, South Korea and New Zealand have double the new cases compared to Italy, compared to the total caseload. So we're close to it, but we're by no means done. And I think that it's important to continue doing what we're doing and realize that this is a pretty bad disease. My neighbor, her sister, was in the hospital for a hip injury, and she contracted the coronavirus, and she unfortunately passed away. So there's a lot of people that we probably should have had around. I mean, the total death around the world is 217,000 dead. 2 weeks ago it was 127,000. This is probably in the U.S. where they're close to 60,000 dead. I can't see how it's come out to less than 100,000 based on the number of people that are sick and the number of people that are still getting the disease. So I think it's too early to break the lockdown. I think it's too early to bring back any more than necessary. I don't think capitalism is worth people's lives. You see people who've lost loved ones, and it's family is one of the things life's about. So I think it's time that we concentrate on getting this thing finished, and we stay the course on this, and soon we'll be back to normal, and I can go back to doing stand-up comedy shows. And people can go back to work, which I guess is fun. Kind of like the parks too, though. So anyway, take care of yourselves. Want to see behind me? Here, I got out the way.